Hi guys, welcome to another one of my videos. I am Alex, the Wandering Englishman, and today I was wondering what was going down in Westminster. Westminster has been the home of British democracy for a very, very long time, although you wouldn't think it today. Since 2016, we have been going back and forth with corrupt politicians about a referendum result that took place in June 2016. Think about that, June 2016, the people of the United Kingdom had a referendum asking themselves, are we going to leave or are we going to remain in Europe? The majority of people voted to leave. 17.4 million people, in fact, voted to leave. We were told this would be a once-in-a-lifetime vote. This is what we were told. This is what we were told by our then Prime Minister, David Cameron. We were told that leaving would be leaving the European Union in its entirety. It would be leaving the economic community. It would be leaving the free trade that is the EU. This is what we were told, and this is what the people voted for, and yet we still remain part of the European Union.
It will be a relationship with the single market at its heart. And when we have negotiated that new settlement, we will give the British people a referendum with a very simple in or out choice: to stay in the European Union on these new terms or to come out altogether. It will be an in-out referendum.
Every week we send 350 million plus a week, and I say plus because it has gone up since the initial figure was rolled out back in 2015 and 2016 during the campaign. Remoaners will tell you, oh no, we get some of that back. Yes we do, we get some of that back. We pay roughly 350 million away, we get about half of that back. Imagine that, it's like having a membership where membership is £350 a month, but don't worry, they give you £175 back, so it's only costing you £175. But for that pleasure, they're going to dictate what you can and can't do, and each year that passes, it's going to cost you even more money, and each year they're going to tell you more and more things that you can and can't do. And for the privilege, you get to trade freely with your next door neighbours, and you as a country will lose your sovereignty. Now, clearly, anyone that's been watching this channel will know I'm not a fan of the European Union. Anytime I mention the European Union, my videos get demonetized. I had a very successful video on Chisinau, Moldova, and it got severely demonetized simply for the fact that I mentioned the European Union. And because someone flagged that, Google, who is working on a line with the mainstream media and the globalists, don't want anyone criticizing the European Union. The European Union has actually told people like Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, the heads at Google, the heads of Yahoo, that they do not want criticism of the European Union.
The table microphone picked up was Merkel sort of muffledly asking a question to Zuckerberg, and then you hear Zuckerberg, and it's on this issue of what Facebook is going to do about monitoring, policing, racist, xenophobic comments about refugees here in Germany. It's a big issue. We hear for Zuckerberg's response pretty clearly on the tape, or at least people who are listening it did. He said, we need to do some work. And then, Guy, there's the Merkel follow-up. She basically asked the same question again, says, but you're working on this. And Zuckerberg can only say yes. But you're working on this. And Zuckerberg can only say yes.
The whole concept sickens me. If it was all about free trade, it would be amazing, but it's not about free trade. It's about an empire, and an empire controlling the way we as a nation and the people in this nation live. And that's a sorry state of affairs. But anyway, let's see what's going on.
So here I am at Westminster, and there's a bit of a media circus going on because today people are protesting many things. People are protesting many things. The mainstream media is over there, in line with the globalists. A lot of Remoaniacs are here. A lot of Leave campaigners are here. You can sense my bias already, correct? But I'm just going to go have a look around and ask some questions.
Get your Johnson out of my democracy! Has anyone got Sky on the phone? Tomorrow landing is worth shouting.
This is Steve Bray. The man is 50 years old, and this is how he spends his days. He's sponsored by a lot of Remoaniacs. A lot of Remoaniacs. And the press seem to love him, despite the odd time that they gripe when he disturbs their broadcasts. He's clearly working in collusion with a lot of the press. If you notice, there's a woman up on the stage there, and he's working in collusion and knowing when to say, stop Brexit, get your Johnson out of this. The man is a total imbecile, but he's loved by the Remoaniacs.
Say that.
So how does Steve Bray manage to spend every single day that Parliament is sitting outside Parliament? Well, the lady right in front of me is one of the biggest contributors to his campaign. I believe her name is Polly Ernest. And why do I believe that? Because I've just seen her GoFundMe page. This is her, I think. There's numerous other pages. Here's another one. They've raised 68,000. Polly Ernest once again. She's the coordinator, and she's the one that keeps this lunatic outside, getting in the way of democracy.
Revoke Article 50! Boris is a liar!
So, I'm stood by College Green, and just behind me are the Soros-paid Remoaniacs. In line with the BBC, the Brussels Broadcasting Corporation, they keep getting signals on when it's appropriate to sort of scream, stop Brexit. They're watching the television, they're coordinating with the BBC. It's a coordinated effort to look as ridiculous as possible, and they've been doing that every single day.
Get your Johnson out of my democracy! Stop Brexit!
I mean, it's safe to say he looks like a 14-year-old boy in a top hat, overweight man, paid by George Soros, facilitated by the Brussels Broadcasting Corporation. It's a sorry state of affairs. We will get there.
Stop Brexit!
Stop being a fucking moron. Stop being an idiot. Stop dressing like you're a 5-year-old. Like, honestly. What? Why would we listen to you? Look what you're wearing.
Stop the deception! Stop the lies! Stop Brexit!
Dressed like a circus clown. And you're just yelling nonsense at a group of people probably trying to do some fucking work. And this is supposed to convince us that you're right. It's like you've run completely out of arguments. It's just reached the point where, I tell you what, let's dress up like morons and just get a traffic cone and start going, "Stop obeying democracy." Like, you got straw for brains, guy. We already voted on this. You lost. Okay? So you can't just yell, "Stop Brexit." You're like a fucking 5-year-old.
Hello?
Can I have one?
2 seconds. Where is it?
It's with you. I just wanted to make sure that
excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Sorry? I've served my nation. You? Yes. Good. So why does that make me a traitor? Because you want to stay in Europe. You've been in there for over 40 years. What has it done that's so bad to you? We won't have any say in our own justification. We won't have any say in our own rules. We have a seat at the table.
Food funds don't say.
When have we ever won a vote? When have we ever won a vote?
Every day this man makes the same joke. He basically points to the floor and he makes the same joke saying, "Excuse me, sir, you've dropped your pineapple." It's actually quite a racist joke, but he continues to use the word, continues to use the racism. This man is paid by George Soros. He's on the payroll of the Globalist. And he's here every single day. He's been here since, I mean, in a way, you've got to admire him. He's been here since the day we voted to come out of the European Union. And yet, 3 years and a lot later on, we're still in the European Union, paying them millions and millions a day. And he continues his racism. If you're a white man and you support Brexit, he refers to you as gammon. In my mind, that's racism.
So, what about that green beaches? Is that to do with you? The green beaches? Yes, the blue flag, the EU blue flag policy.
We'd have cleaned up our beaches anyway.
Rubbish.
Of course we would have done. Of course we would have done. We can do things in this country.
So what is the European Union? Which rule and regulation affects your life so badly you have to leave?
What affects our lives, right? The fact that we can't make our own, we won't be able to make our own decisions for the future. That we will end up with a European Parliament that will be so strong that this United Kingdom we'll be forced into taking the euro. We won't have our own army, we won't have our own navy, we won't have our own airlines. What? It's already been talked about, the European army.
That's a nonsense.
Sehr geehrter Herr Präsident, aber wir sollten, das sage ich sehr bewusst auch aus der Entwicklung der letzten Jahre, wir sollten an der Vision arbeiten, eines Tages auch eine echte europäische Armee zu schaffen. Jean-Claude Juncker. Denn Jean-Claude Juncker hat schon vor 4 Jahren gesagt, eine gemeinsame europäische Armee würde der Welt zeigen, dass es zwischen den europäischen Ländern nie wieder Krieg gibt. Und das ist ja keine Armee gegen die NATO, ich bitte Sie, sondern das kann eine gute Ergänzung der NATO sein. Kein Mensch möchte klassische Verbindungen in Frage stellen, aber in der
It's on record.
They will never be a European.
Really? And you've got this on record now. This is the saying that we'll never have a European army.
Excuse me, sir, I haven't abused you. Please don't abuse me.
But
We're here debating
am I allowed to
civilly.
think? Am I allowed to think you're an idiot?
Well, if you call me an idiot, that's
Am I
your
allowed to
time.
think?
You've lost the
am
argument.
Right, okay, but am I allowed to think
You
you're an
can
idiot?
think what you like.
Good, then I think you're an idiot.
There you go. End of discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is this the whole?
It's day in,
Britain
day
nowadays?
out. It's relentless, day in, day out. I'm a traitor. I'm a scum. I'm
paid by George Soros.
Huh?
Paid by George Soros.
Paid by George Soros.
Yeah, you're paid by George Soros.
I actually earn my own money.
Yeah, paid by George Soros.
Do you know what a
funded by Hope Not
numismatist
Hate.
does? Do you know what a numismatist does?
Yes, sadly, in fact, I do. A numismatist, someone who collects coins and makes a living out of collecting coins. But in fact, Steve Bray lived with his mum for his entire life, collecting coins. And since he came to Parliament, he's been funded by many crowdfunding campaigns, some of which are linked to George Soros.
I'm a numismatist, and that's how I make my money.
Is that it, yeah? Paid by George Soros?
No, you're not listening.
Femi's also paid by George Soros. You're paid by George Soros as well. You'll hear every single day.
Far right.
He's been put up in a house around the corner by George Soros. The reality is Steve Bray is staying in a very nice house since he left his mother's house. He's staying in a house that costs £4,500 to rent per week, courtesy of the crowdfunding operations that fund him. But we also don't know exactly where that money is coming from. Yes, a lot of it's coming from small sources, but we do know George Soros has funded the anti-Brexit campaign in the tune of millions, and he distributes that across multiple NGOs and multiple organizations. So to suggest that his money hasn't come into contact is a little bit far-fetched.
Okay.
And I'm far right from disagreeing with him.
Can't even have a
He can't deny it. He's been paid by George Soros.
I can deny it. Here we are on camera. I am absolutely not paid a penny for what I am doing here today. I am absolutely not paid a penny for what I am doing here today.
Notice he said he was not paid a penny for what he's doing here today. He didn't actually deny he's not being paid by George Soros. Did you note that? And the evidence really does stack up against him. The numerous crowdfunding campaigns, the fact that he's put up in a very expensive house around the corner clearly tells us he's being paid. Paid by George Soros.
There you go. It's on camera.
You're paid by George Soros and you're put up in a house around the corner.
You just said I can't deny it, so I deny it on camera, so I'm still...
Are you swearing on an oath? Oh, is there going to be a European army? It was discussed in the House of Lords yesterday. It was discussed in the House of Lords just yesterday that there was going to be a European army.
There's not going to be a European army.
See, he's lying then. So we know he lies about that. We know he lies about George Soros.
There isn't. End of discussion.
Discussed in the House of Lords yesterday.
Will somebody please tell us the truth about the European Defence Union? This is by far the biggest issue facing the British public, and they know nothing about it officially. Can we please have a proper account of what it entails? Is it really true that the government has entered into private agreements with the European community, that they will, on completion of Remain, or whatever it is to be, transfer to the European Union in Brussels the entire control of our entire fighting forces, including all their equipment? You may jest, my lords, but it has been done and you must check it out. It is too important to ignore. We must know the truth of this. We must have it clear for the whole public to know. I believe it is true, and I think we should be told. I have understanding that it is intended that the oath of every serving member of our forces will be cancelled, and they will be required to undertake a new oath of loyalty to Brussels, and that we have had, in recent months, I understand, a series of people sent from our armed forces to create and install the command and control centres to be used for the control of our troops once we have been ceased to have any control over their use, application or deployment. It goes beyond this. They are to take control of our intelligence services, the whole core of the Five Eyes. They will have MI6 and they will have the Cheltenham Monitoring Centre. And we will be excluded from it under the new arrangements completely and have no access either to its product or force.
Anyway, we can't.
There's going to be EU army.
There already is.
Von Hofstadt has openly said it. It's been said by many leaders in the EU. That's what they're working towards.
Yeah, they want to build an empire of the
working
good.
towards the United States of Europe. It's quite clear they're 85% of the way there already. They've already got their own parliament, their own president, they've got their own Supreme Court, they've got their own central banks, they've got their own currency, they've got their own border, they've got their own flag, their own anthem. I mean, what is it that they haven't got that makes them the United States? Sorry? Oh, that's your megaphone. They want to see you. That's what they want.
But in any way, I think that if you look to the world of today, if you look to the empires that are India and China and the United States and at the same time Russia, I think that the time is very near that we're going to decide on a European army in the European Union.
They will not let us leave.
There's an informed man here.
Yes, it's a bogus argument on this side to deny that that's what the plan is. What they should do, if they was honest, is just admit that's the plan and say, so what, it's good. The trouble is we've got a Remain-stream media that are not interested in both sides of the argument.
I'd like to chat to you.
That's what you are. You're the Remain-stream media.
I'm not on either side. Essentially, I'm Eurosceptic, but I can't quite get behind the whole movement. But what really pissed me off is Remainers assuming that Leave votes are idiots.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Have you felt demeaned by?
Oh, every day.
It's not just they're not just demeaning and vilifying and pathologising the opposition. They are dehumanising them, and you can see it in their rhetoric. Their rhetoric has got a nasty subtext to it. For instance, they can't just say we want the second referendum, they've got to call it a people's vote. And the subtext of that, what's being subcommunicated there is they aren't real people, these working class that's voting. These aren't real people. Now we want the real people. I mean, every vote's a people vote. Yeah. It's total nonsense. But it's their rhetorical devices they've been using to vilify and, as I say, even dehumanise their oppositions. Yeah. This is a dangerous thing. It's happened in Europe before. It's a dangerous path to go down, and they've gone down that path. And you can see in their desperation to deny the result of that referendum, they are willing to do and say anything now. Anything. They're willing to change laws and make stupid laws that don't make any sense. What law in the land can there be that only applies to a single person? What law that can compel a single person to do something and not anybody else? There's no other law in the land that's anything like that. But this Parliament has been shown, the House of Lords, is cram-packed full of cronies, of Remain cronies from Remain Prime Ministers that have packed it full of them, that are parasites, bloated on taxpayers' money. Sitting in there telling us what to do, that we've got to suck it up. We've got to suck up all the bad parts of being a member of the EU, and they can have all the good parts. They can see the prices of their houses going up, while the working class see their living costs rising
Absolutely.
up. Well, they can see that their wages are being suppressed. Why, if they want to employ anyone, their nannies and babysitters, they're all nice and cheap. They're getting all the benefits, and the indigenous working class of the host nation are getting all the downsides of EU policy. Absolutely. And that they wonder why, when we got one chance to vote, that the indigenous working class voted in there millions upon millions and surprised them and won. And now it's just an endless campaign to try and deny that was a real election, when we all knew it was a real election. No one mentioned before it was an election. And when they say it was only advisory, there's advisory. That word can be used in different contexts. There can be different words. If your father advised you as a kid not to go out, you didn't go out. Depends who's advising who when you're in authority. If you get a builder in to put an extension on your house and you advise them you want this extension, when you come back they haven't even touched that, they put a new roof on, well, they haven't done what you've advised. It doesn't mean, it was only advisory, wasn't it? There's advisory and there's advisories. These are not our employers. We are they are our employees.
Yep.
Okay? They do our bidding. They work for us. When we advise someone who works for us, it's not the same as just advising me, but advising you, whatever your dress sense not to support. That might be advised, but when you're advising someone who works for you, it's completely different. If your boss advised you to do something, you do it. It's completely different context. For them to say it was advisory so they can forget it is nonsense. It's ridiculous. In this context, that advice means do it. Do it. We're instructing you to do it. If you don't do it, there's consequences. That's the outrage. But the media don't want to hear. Like I say, the mainstream media. That's what they are, Max. The mainstream media. That's what they are.
They're fake media.
They're fake media. It's just non-stop.
The best thing anyone can do is just turn off their TVs, turn off the radios. Because as soon as you put on BBC News, you're giving them money. All these people would say they think it's fake news, then turn on their TV and spend all day watching them.
Don't pay your TV licence.
They don't pay a TV licence, don't watch them.
The Brexit blocking corporation.
That's how they lose their power.
Which is why they're now trying to charge over 75.
They are struggling. People are switching off in their droves. Their viewerships are tanking. They know it. All the mainstream medias, because we have all our media's one-sided in this country. We don't get any other side of it. In America and Australia, at least they've got a channel that will at least give partially the other side. Here, they're all Remainers. The whole lot of them are Remainers, from Channel 4 to Sky to BBC, ITV. The whole lot of them. They're all Remainers, and it's non-stop. And you can see it in all their coverage. One-sided coverage, character assassinations from anyone who opposes their narrative, outnumbered panel shows where you've got someone who wants to remain is totally outnumbered by the other guests and the presenter.
Other way around, you mean?
Other way around, time and time again, time and time and time again. Time again, and it's people are fed up of it. The game's up. The game's up. People have got wise to it, and they've had enough.
Which is why they're now trying to deny even the basic act of democracy, a general election.
If you was to go by what you hear on the TV today, the BBC or Channel 4, you would think that the Conservative Party is in meltdown. It's absolutely breaking down. It's destroying itself. It's eating itself from within. It's terrible. It's a catastrophe. Oh, and in other news, the Conservative Party 14 points ahead and rising.
They saved themselves.
They will never. Of course it is, because they're purging themselves from the liberals that have infiltrated for decades and have sat there.
Yeah.
They've sat there posing as conservatives, but haven't had conserved anything. And they point to, well, what about a statesman like Ken Clarke? Ken Clarke is a parasite who's been sat in there for ages. Ken Clarke's not conservative, and when it comes to the morals of Ken Clarke, for decades and decades he lobbied for the tobacco industry.
Yep.
Even though the evidence was out, he constantly lobbied for them because he's on the payroll, non-stop lobbying for them, even though they knew the health risks of tobacco. He carried on regardless. For decades he was on the payroll of its BAS, isn't it? The big tobacco, British and American tobacco.
One of the longest serving members of the Bilderberg group as well.
I have actually been a member of the steering committee of Bilderberg for many years now, I think about 10 years, and by chance actually this is my last year because we have a rule against being on the committee for too long, so I'm on the point of stepping down. The Bilderberg organisation exists for the purpose of holding meetings once a year in various countries. It exists for no other purpose.
You are, and he's in there talking for us, sticking up for the common man. I do not think so. He's a bloated parasite.
Well, he's like most bourgeois Bolsheviks. He claims to be for the common people, but then he really is just for himself, and he hates working class.
You've got a channel.
I do. I hope it's okay. I know it's disappointing. Normally just a public space is disappointing, but I really honestly appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm always trying to be fair.
What is it, so we can look at it?
Oh, yeah, the Wandering Englishman.
The Wandering Englishman.
As it, but wonder.
Wondering or wandering?
Wondering.
Wondering.
Yeah.
All right, I'll look you up. YouTube?
It's on YouTube, yeah.
For how long though?
Do you get many? Yeah, that's what I mean. Once I'm on there, they might check.
How long? There's not too many. Just 5,500 so far.
No, I mean, how long before YouTube kicks you off with having the wrong thing?
Well, if I ever mention in any of my videos any sort of disrespect to the EU, it gets demonetized straight away. If you don't mention, it's every single time. If you a lot of my videos sometimes are in different places. As soon as you mention the EU, within a couple of weeks it gets demonetized.
It's been getting a lot worse lately, hasn't it? There's lots of YouTube channels that I go to that I've found that they're closed down. They were perfectly reasonable YouTube channels that no longer exist because they decided they don't agree with their views, and they can't say that it's bad language or it's graphic because there's channels on YouTube that are non-political that are allowed carte blanche to say and
say whatever they want.
They like. It's just when it comes to politics, and it's particularly conservative politics.
Oh, absolutely. If you're leaning to the right, you are shut down. You are the algorithm will
how is YouTube justifying it? Because they're just supposed to be a platform. They're not supposed to be editorial. How are they managing to have their cake and eat it? Because if they decide there's censorship and they can decide what's said and what's not, well then they're just a publication, and now whatever they put on, if they're a publication, they are liable for anything that's put on there. They can't be just liable for a bit. So how are they managing this sleight of hand at the moment?
But sadly, they're in bed with the right people, and
our problem is that they're in the right side of the political class at the moment. That could easily turn, though, couldn't it? That could easily turn.
Could it? I'm not sure.
Well, it could turn if you've got a parliament that more reflects the people's views. Okay, then the parliament could start to call them up about it. And now these channels have made their bed, and they're going to have to lie there, because now they're publications, and now anything that goes on there, and that would close down their business very quickly. They only need a couple of court cases and it closes down their business. What was the website in America that had to close down? Was it Gawker or something?
The Gawker did shut down.
Do you remember? Because of they said something derogatory about the famous wrestler, and he took them to court. Well, that will happen with YouTube and the other channels once we get a parliament that reflects the people and the people's views. And then they'll be in trouble.
The trouble is YouTube is an American company, therefore it needs to be done in America.
Yeah, it might be American.
But it's a public square these days. That's how
they have offices here, and they run a business here, and they get money from businesses here. So it's a global company. They are still answerable to our parliament if they want to do business in this country. They are still liable. If for instance, it's proven that they are a publication and they allow something to go out that causes a crime, well, they are liable in that case. They will be liable as any publication. If it's seen to incite a crime, well, then they are liable for letting it go in their publication, like any newspaper would be. There's certain things newspapers and TV shows can't say. But they're getting away with it at the moment. They're getting away with this no man's land in between, aren't they?
Yeah.
And but they've decided, by censoring you and demonetising you, they've made their decision. So there will be no going back for them. If we get a proper government here, which is more likely now than it's ever been, a proper government that looks into it and decides, well, they've already decided what side of the fence they're on, and that's the end of it.
But then here's the thing, though. Because they're now so desperate to do anything they can to stop a government that actually listens to the people, they want to make it so that we won't hold a general election until we get a deal with the EU. And what the EU has some like draconian deal that says that, okay, government, we are now basically in charge, and we literally become a subservient vassal state. They may make it legally that the only way to get rid of the EU is a physical revolt. I would not surprise the people in Parliament to literally sell us out to the enemy like that, rather than just in theory selling us out, which is at the moment where technically we're still free, though we're not. They might just go, okay, let's get rid of all positions, so that if people say that we want out, then we can use force against them. I will not put that past the Parliament at the moment. And then the only question is, will the police stand with Parliament? Will the army stand with Parliament? Or will they stand with the people? It's very likely a civil war is imminent.
Will you guys take to the streets then?
I've been taking to the streets. Well, there is protests, we just haven't turned violent yet, but if that's the only option...
Well, so for you guys, what is actually the solution to this? Not just short term, but because I think
what's happening at the moment.
What I think is that there is genuine systemic change that's needed. Yeah, and I've got quite a radical idea.
Yeah, we need massive amounts of parliamentary reforms. We've had them before in the country. We can have them again.
Well, what I believe is that we need to get rid of, essentially, have a non-party democracy, whereby we don't have political parties, and whereby rather than voting, selection for who our representatives are is done by random selection.
Where else is this done in the world?
It's not. But I think this was because if you see the whole kind of deadlock over Brexit and all the problems stemming from it, largely have stemmed from party rivalry and parties wanting to score political points against their opponents.
I think to be honest,
and I think that political party rivalry is the fundamental problem.
I think you're always going to get people that congregate into groups when it comes to political. I don't see. If you take a snapshot, it looks like chaos is happening at the moment, but actually. Parliament is working in a degree. To a degree, Parliament is working. Our problem here is we've had this two-party politics for a long time. This duopoly of power that it's just musical chairs. change seats every now and again. But the problem with our politics and why we've got to this spot is because both main parties, the Conservatives and Labour, have been moving to the centre. They've been becoming more liberal. They've been taking votes from the Liberals. That's where they've seen their votes. The Conservatives over the last few decades, since Margaret Thatcher, have shifted way over to become a far more liberal party, to the degree where when David Cameron left office and they asked him what was his greatest achievement being Prime Minister, he said it was gay marriage. Now, gay marriage was never mentioned. Whatever your views on gay marriage is immaterial, but gay marriage was never mentioned in any of his manifestos.
It just happened.
Because he knew that it wasn't a particular popular policy. So his most popular policy is a very liberal, what they would call a progressive, although I don't like that word. So that's not Conservative Prime Minister. That's not a Conservative Prime Minister. So you've got the Conservative Party moving that way. Then under Blair, the Labour Party moved to the centre, and you've got the fringes that were left out to dry. You had no one representing the indigenous working class in this country because Labour had left them behind to go for the Liberals. The Conservative had left them behind. There was no longer a Conservative Party, and we've had this meeting in the middle, and everybody on the fringes. What we're seeing now is a bounce back, and what's interesting is the way the two different parties are solving that problem. You can see how the Conservative Party are doing it now. They are, because the Conservative Party has grown distant from the actual grassroots party, the parliamentary party is no longer become no longer connected to the grassroots party, because the grassroots party are Conservatives. They want Brexit. They're mostly Brexit, and that's why the parliamentary party then have given the vote to get Theresa May in as leader. They had to circumvent that by making it she stood on her own at the end and one dropped out. They couldn't pull it to the people because they wouldn't have voted her in. They would have voted anyone who was remotely Brexit in. But what's happened, the way they've solved their problem is to jettison now. All these people are being jettisoned, these liberals that have been infiltrated the Conservative movement, Conservative Party. So the party itself is sprung back to be more in line with its grassroots. Interestingly, the Labour Party have done completely the opposite. They, with the Blair government, again, he moved their party to the centre and Liberals, and the grassroots of the Labour Party, the Socialists, the people who keep the red flag flying here after every conference, were marginalised and they weren't represented in Parliament by Tony Blair. But their answer, interestingly, when they finally got under Corbyn's answer to that isn't is to get rid of all the Blairites. So he's pushed the Blairites out. So now
got more extreme
so now their party are more. So it's springing back. It's actually healing itself. You can see it healing itself. This is not a bad thing. It looks bad and it's taking a lot of time, and we've got the pressures of Brexit. But Brexit is actually could end up being a very cleansing process for our politics, where now we can get some proper representation for the other people, the socialists and the people on the Brexit side of it. Because when you think we live in a country where 4 million people went out and voted for the UKIP, well, they get one election, that's ridiculous.
You didn't have to go back many years to be a socialist and also be a Brexiteer as well. You don't. It doesn't. No, you can be left. You can be extreme left. And
Tony Benn was the arch leaver, wasn't it?
And look, have you seen just Galloway recently? I mean, we know he's on the left and he's very pro-Brexit.
It's quite simple, really. It's no longer even about Brexit. It's about democracy. If people vote not knowing if their vote is going to count or if it's going to be stolen from them, or if they win, if that victory will be robbed in front of their eyes, democracy no longer means anything at all. That's why I say you can campaign to rejoin the European Union if you like, and you won't have much by way of political traction if you do, but the decision of the Brexit referendum to leave the European Union just must be implemented, and anyone who stands in the way of it is not a champion of democracy, but is in fact an enemy of democracy.
Very pro-Brexit.
And yet we've got Tony Benn's son is an arch Remainer.
Yeah.
Another couple of examples.
I think it's because he called him
Jeremy Corbyn was a Brexiteer.
He always has been, and he probably still is. He just doesn't want a Conservative Brexit. He wants a Labour Brexit.
Which goes back to they're just scoring points against each other. He just doesn't want his enemy to do what he wants.
Exactly.
And also another person that was a Brexiteer, Owen Jones, and now he's like so.
He's shifted, yeah.
Oh, he's extreme left or
Yeah,
moron.
but socialist, you find that happens in a socialist movement all the time. It's not really, they don't have any hard and fast policies. It seems to be that they want to cause as much unrest as possible and drive as many wedges. And sometimes it might be this side, you might be on it, drive, whichever is the more likely to cause as much aggravation as possible, they will be on the side. They've never been interested in climate change. Suddenly they're setting up their stalls whenever there's a climate change protest. They've never been interested in the Brexit. Like you say, they've been on completely the other side. Yet they set up their stall the other day, right in the middle of it, getting signatures. But when you actually talk to them, none of their policies can be enacted if they're members of the EU. They can't nationalise anything if you're a member of the EU. Total nonsense. The only, it's like Orwell. We always go back to Orwell. Orwell, middle-class socialist, unlike lots of the other middle-class socialists, decided to get out there and have a look what's really going on. Went to look at how the miners lived with them, worked with them, saw the horrendous conditions they lived under. Horrendous, absolutely blew his mind. Come back and told all his socialist friends, and was shocked that they didn't care, they weren't interested. And it hit him. He realised these middle class socialists, it's not because they like the poor or they care about the poor, it's because they hate the rich. That's more of it. That's where they're born from. But that didn't work here because British people don't hate the rich. They want to become rich. It's like they want to get on. They want to get their kids into good school. We don't hate people for getting their kids into good school. We want to get them into Eton. We don't want to destroy Eton. We want to get to a chance where we can put our own kids in an Eton or another Eton. So it didn't work. So instead, the socialists morphed into something else. So now they're driving wedges between other groups, men and women, ethnic minorities, and the indigenous population. They can drive wedges anywhere, any group they can with climate change. You will find them at the centre of any aggravation that's happening, whipping it up with this. The strategy has always been to bring everything down and crumble everything down into chaos and then present themselves as the only answer to this chaos. And that's their strategy and always has been. And it's really dangerous, and that's what they're trying here. And it's not, what's happening here is perfectly acceptable, perfectly all right. It will iron itself out. You can see Parliament remorphing itself where it should have been. And that everybody going back, these independent Conservative MPs should never have been Conservatives. The media are telling us it's terrible news, but it's great. We should be singing the Queen song. Every time one leaves, we should be singing Another One Bites the Dust. Because every time one of those leaves, the Conservative Party becomes more conservative, which is what it should be, no matter what.
Well, this is the thing. The mainstream media for the last week have been saying what a terrible week Boris has had. But in my mind, for the Conservatives, it's been an amazing week. We've got the purge of these Conservatives.
It's been a dream.
Yeah,
it's been a dream. What would have been terrible is if, as I was saying earlier, is if we had a soft Brexit or a pseudo Brexit that they were planning for us, and then when we weren't really out, but they had the plausible deniability of saying, well, we are out because it's called this now. Just, that would have been a disaster, and we would have had the same people there. We would have had Theresa May and Ken Clarke would have all been sitting there, pompous, bloated parasites, sucking the life out of the country, representing no one but representing
the globalists,
interested in conserving nothing but their own place at the trough. But we've got them wiped out now. We're getting them purged. And I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying Ken Clarke is a bad person.
I would say that.
I'm just saying my only problem with Ken Clarke is he's not conservative. Apart from that, he's a perfectly acceptable liberal.
His track record would suggest
it's appalling.
It's appalling. No, he was pro-Iraq. He was pro Afghanistan. He was pro-Libya. The guy's
I don't think.
Look at his connections to the Bilderberg Group as well. It might sound a bit conspiracy, but
I remember him lobbying, as I said before, on behalf of the tobacco companies.
There we go, another one.
Even though the evidence was clear and everything had changed, he continued for decades and decades. Totally shameless.
He works for the corporations. He doesn't work for the people.
He will not be missed in the Conservative Party. But what will be interesting is what happens if they succeed in what they want to happen now. Force Boris to resign, hand his resignation to the Queen, and then they get someone that they can rally behind, which it looks like Ken Clarke would be the ideal candidate because he's now an independent, so even the Labour can get behind him. He's leaving politics, so he's not going to hang around. He's not going to put personal gain out of it. So, and they make him a temporary Prime Minister and send him to Europe with this letter, and then he promises as soon as we've left that the date of our leaving has been extended, he resigns and calls a general election. That's their plan at the moment. But the optics is going to be very peculiar, because if that happens, if their plan for success happens, we're going to have the spectacle of him being able to command a majority in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
Via backing from all the opposition parties. But then, if you can imagine, so the Queen will say, okay, you can be Prime Minister, but where's he going to sit, and where's everyone else going to sit? Because the Conservative Party are now in opposition, so they have to move over. The Labour Party are not in government, and Jeremy Corbyn won't sit on those benches, someone else's leader. So Ken Clarke's going to be sitting on that bench on his own, and the whole of Parliament are going to be sitting on the other side.
I think it's a pipe dream. I don't see that happening. I know it's been pitched. I think
that's their plan.
It is their plan, but I think if that happens, it will be a very sad day.
It will be a mind-blowing day just to see where people are sitting.
Yeah. Well, in terms of get the popcorn out, it'll be a fascinating day.
Yeah.
But in terms of is it good for politics?
Start studying politics. It's going to be fascinating.
Is it good for politics? It would be a terrible day.
Anyway, I'll look out for yourself.
Sorry, what's your name, brother?
James.
Alex, pleasure to meet you.
Alex,
and do you have a Twitter handle or
I don't
a
have
Twitter?
any. I'm totally anti-social media.
I was going to put your Twitter handle underneath the.
No, that's the last thing. Twitter. I always think Twitter's for like. It's for teenage girls to natter about fashion. What are we all doing on it, guys? For God's sake, there are still a few pubs in London that we can stand at the bar, Twitter, and what's the other one they do?
Instagram. Was that for taking pictures of their phone?
Yeah, that's more of the teenage girl one, the Instagram.
Is that what they're doing when they're getting their cameras out?
Yeah, that's
Instagram.
Instagram.
What are they doing with the pictures?
Posting on
Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a wander, but it was a pleasure also.
Alex, you said, yes?
Yeah, Alex.
Alex, take care.
Nice to chat you.
Ed.
But
look at your site. Your site was the
Wandering Englishman. Okay. So you're waving the flag up there, and you're saying that the BBC doesn't like having the European Union flag in their shots.
Absolutely.
The Brussels Broadcasting Corporation doesn't like the European flag in their shot. Is that what you're saying?
BBC tried to keep my flag off TV, but I said no, no, no.
The Brussels Broadcasting Corporation. Yeah? The same corporation that's paid millions by the European Union. That same corporation. Where are you getting this from?
Where are you getting this from? There's no BBC bias.
There is BBC bias, and it's on your side, sadly.
Really?
So, Really? The average question time panel...
I could give you the question time audience, which is full of UKIPers. They come here. I know half the bloody BBC.
You clearly don't. It's a different audience every week.
They're not. That's the whole point.
Right.
They're not. Oh,
it's a different audience every week, different parts of the country. We're done. Well,
who are you then?
Who am I? Someone that doesn't accept European corruption. Someone that isn't a globalist. Someone that doesn't like wasting millions to an unaudited organisation.
How has being in the EU affected your life today?
The EU brought in...
How has it been detrimental to your life today?
Yeah, it has been.
What's it done today that's been detrimental?
The EU...
What's happened in your life today that's been detrimental?
The EU imposed a law called MiFID II, brought upon by the EU. I ran and owned a brokerage, and because of MiFID II, my brokerage was forced to shut down because of EU regulation. Was that detrimental to my life? Yes, it was.
Fair enough.
You just asked me that question.
That's a good answer. I'm happy with that answer.
I'm not happy with that answer. But
What's it gone? Brexit, baby! Brexit, baby! Give me Brexit! Brexit, baby!
Look at the diversity from the Remoaniacs. The average Remoaniac is around about 60 years old, grey hair, white, from middle-class England, worried about who's going to be serving their lattes as opposed to the impacts on the working classes. It's a sorry state of affairs. Some of them are actually still paid by George Soros, and hope not hate.
If for anybody else here who works in London, who would be serving our coffee in Pret? Who would be selling us our sandwiches in bread? You're not going to get England.
It's like it feels like a bit of a school playground here for the over 60s.
Brexit, baby!
Stop Brexit! Johnny Bakers! Johnny
Alright.
I'm good. I like your banter.
Huh?
I like your banter.
I gotta get that maybe mixing in, you know what I mean? Who are you with? Independent?
Just independent, yeah. Just thought I'd come along, just sort of.
So that's what I've done the day I have been visiting, so I popped along.
So you're not down from Scotland,
no,
are you?
I'm down from Scotland, but I'm down. My daughter's getting grammar school test. Aye. Daughter's got a grammar school test tomorrow, so I'm down for that. So
okay.
Got a few days off work.
So you just thought, come down to Westminster.
Give a bit of abuse.
Give it.
Shout fake news, know what I mean? The usual.
Can you believe there was a guy waving the European flag over there that was suggesting that the BBC doesn't like seeing that flag? Can you imagine the...
That's what you're dealing with. They're divorced from reality, aren't they?
The Brussels Broadcasting Corporation doesn't like seeing the European Union flag. Can you imagine that?
Listen, they're full of lefties, they're full of communists, really, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? So that their desire is to bring down the Western society. It's in their manuals, their training manuals a lot, do you know what I mean? They've got universities. Do you know why they want everybody to go to university, whether you're
the indoctrination?
Because you're useless and then you'll get a good grade in socialist classes and then you're indoctrinated, then you'll work in McDonald's and you'll be an aggravated, angry socialist for the rest of your life.
They've got you.
Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
It's amazing. Oh no, there's a big fight still to be had, but it's quite easy to be done when you've got the government in there, but we'll get it. We'll get it. You know what I mean? You've still not started fighting.
Keep up the fight.
Which we don't want to do. Do you know what I mean? Why ruin the country you're trying to save? Do you know what I mean? So we've not got angry yet. Really?
No, we haven't got angry at all. I don't.
We believe in the rule of law and the rule of democracy. You know, like these guys. Do you know what I mean?
They don't. There's been a. Did you see the skirmishes a couple of weeks ago? No.
I've seen a few things.
There was almost a lynching in Parliament Square because the Remoaniacs didn't like the day that Parliament was suspended. Then they started lynching some Leave campaigners.
Oh, I've seen some grabbing some flags. I know they're always quick to violence when you don't get their own way. It's notorious for the left. That's what I'm saying, even Hitler was a lefty. If you look into Hitler, National Socialist, right? Fair enough, he turned on the socialists, and that's how they always go to went after the socialists. Same as Mussolini, he grew up a socialist.
All the socialists.
You know what I mean? And then he turned on them because that's a threat to their power. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you only got Lenin, Stalin, they're all
confiscate his guns,
Fidel.
Free university, free healthcare, free everything. The policies are exactly the same as the left pound now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What I mean?
And these guys are cheering on a European army.
They don't know that, I know. They don't know that. That's never going to happen.
They're cheering on a European army. They don't mind their taxes, although I'm not sure this guy's paying taxes anymore. He's just...
You still don't ask me what the difference between another referendum and a general election is. One's a people's vote and apparently people don't vote in the other one. I don't know. What's the difference? Tell the man on the camera. What's the difference between a general election and a people's vote?
It's a single issue. General election.
This is a single issue. The general election is going to be fought with a single issue.
There are other things.
What?
at least in this single issue, the Lib Dems, which you, I'd imagine, won't need to be examined their party policies. Innit? That's how the Lib Dems don't get in, because you're a party. That's how you're going to be demand another referendum. Can I turn it around? Show the camera. But you're not going to get a general election. You're laughing that we can't get a vote, but you want another vote.
So the most anti-democratic sign you could possibly hold up.
Can you not see the nonsense you're saying there? You're walking about with nonsense. Really, you are. You're walking about with nonsense. You are. Did you write that yourself, or somebody give you that?
That's not my...
So somebody gave you nonsense and you're parading it about, watch. You're parading it out. I would actually read it and understand it before you actually put it forward, mate.
I think you scared him.
I know. I did have it in that. I've not even started yet. That's what I mean.
But you're just using words.
Yeah.
You know, there's no aggression there. You're just having a debate.
Explain to me what's the difference between
I think they picked him up from the old people's home. He looks confused.
He's a Lib Dem. The Lib Dem, the child Lib Dem, shipped up in a bus.
I think he looks lost.
Somebody gave him a sign, he walks a bit. You know
is he paid to hold that sign?
I don't know.
Is that the flag of Finland?
I think so, aye. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure he's a really nice guy. He's probably
most everybody is.
But
see, in general, even if you look at Christians, Muslims, and everything, Catholics, Protestants, no, everybody just generally runs about normally, goes to work, raise their kids. But when things get stoked up like this for so long,
it causes division amongst nice people.
Yeah, and you're not prepared to take them at face value. So
yeah,
and I believe you're stronger if it comes into a physical alteration anyway. So.
And tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
And they don't want that, but they do. The government, the Remainers would like to see it decimated, so they couldn't fight trade deals, they couldn't make Brexit a success, so the system gets back in. We're not fighting Remainers, we're fighting a system.
Yeah.
I mean, put somebody else in their same suit, different smile, same system.
Fantastic. What's your name, by the way?
Stuart.
Alex.
Nice one,
Pleasure to meet you.
Cheers. What's your YouTube channel?
The Wandering Englishman.
Wandering
As in wander up here. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Someone from Council to really. Take care, so you get good deals. There's brown envelopes 2 inches thick. Well, I'm not going to ask someone what to do. Should be not dealing with that. Denied our rights. Denied our
Maybe a totalitarian, but at least he's an environmentalist. It's got very confusing. I think all of us are getting confused. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. He's up against it so much, and they're trying to use little small rubber ways to try and circumvent him from doing it, aren't they?
I do.
and saying that a lot of the senior Brexiters don't.
Hello.
How's it going?
All right, thank you. Who are you from? Why are you filming?
Because it's a public space, I like to film. I film everything.
Oh, why is that?
Is that right?
Well, we do like to know.
Well, you're getting filmed right now by the government.
It's very
slightly
rare.
different being filmed from that far.
Yeah.
To having someone stand.
All right, so I'm filming
For what reason?
For what reason?
because I have a YouTube channel, so I'm filming.
Okay,
Yeah.
then just start with you're a YouTuber.
Yes, you just say you're a YouTuber. Well, you know, that's all we
is that
want
right?
to know. Yeah.
I mean, you,
What channel do you?
The Wandering Englishman.
The Wandering Englishman.
Wandering Englishman.
As in wonder.
Wandering or what? Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh,
you know.
that's the
And what are you wondering about?
I wonder about life, the universe.
Okay. The answer to the meaning of the universe is 42.
Okay. It's a good book.
No, we never found that question.
But do you have anything original? No. So
I'm not English, so you know.
you're not English.
No, I'm not.
Okay, but you're British.
No, I've got British nationality. Yes.
Yeah,
I
yes,
have.
you're British.
Sorry.
You're British, though, aren't you?
I have British nationality. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I'm not English.
No, that's okay.
Most of the people here aren't either.
I don't only talk to English people.
Oh, that's good.
Do you collect nationalities?
No, I
Do you
just...
collect nationalities?
No, I don't. You know, I'm French, I'm English. It's the circumstances of life.
If there was a war between the two, who would you be loyal to?
No, there would not be. I once asked though, if I died in a crash in the middle of the sea, who does my body belong to? And they said the one who gets to you first.
Well, that makes sense. Who's going to pick up the bill? Who, you know?
I don't know. I've never thought about that. I don't much care about.
She'll be dead.
She'll be dead. They can do any. I don't care. Throw me on a tit, whatever.
So how often are you guys out here then?
We're every day.
Every day?
Some of us come different times. Yeah, as and when. Yeah, when we can, when we can't.
Yeah. Some of you are paid, aren't you?
No. Oh my God! I earn a pension, and I have to count the £13 that I spend coming here on my fare and buying a pound sausage roll
From where?
Greggs. I am not.
So where do you come from?
Well, I come from Brentwood.
Okay, but you get free bus travel as a pensioner, don't you?
No.
Are you not over 60?
I don't get a freedom pass. I live in Essex. I don't live in London.
Essex isn't a London borough. It's a different county.
Yeah, and we don't get free rail travel, free bus travel.
You clearly vote for the wrong people. They should be like, why am I not getting the...
No, it's the border of the line of London boroughs.
It's London boroughs.
We're not London.
You get free bus travel, don't you?
If we apply for the ticket, which I have done, I can get money off of a rail ticket by paying, I think, £30 a year.
Okay. Because some of your colleagues are paid to be here.
None of us are paid.
Really? The guy over there's paid?
No, he isn't. Steve, we're supposed
So if you're crowdfunded and they give you money, isn't that being paid?
No.
Because YouTubers get crowdfunded.
Yeah, but we support him, don't we? We all give a little
but YouTubers will get crowdfunded through Patreon, through crowdfunding, just so they can, keep their channels going. That's because AdSense doesn't always pay.
It's the same thing, but I think the connotation with being paid is that one person. Like I get paid by my employer. That's me.
And who's your employer?
Yeah, I'm not telling you who I work for.
Okay, but if you get paid by the NHS, that's crowdfunded by taxpayers.
But crowdfunding is a different term to tax paying.
Crowdfunding is voluntary.
Crowdfunding is a choice.
Taxation is not meant to be.
Taxation is...
Tax paying is...
Well, it's not meant to be. There are some people that think it is.
Okay, so if you're crowdfunded and paid through that crowdfunding, you're claiming you're not paid. Because if I do crowdfunding for my YouTube channel, that's me getting paid.
It's kind of one of those
Usually
where I
doesn't
think
cover that
because
sort of costs.
the country hasn't caught up and society hasn't caught up with the idea of crowdfunding. So
Well,
no, it's not paid.
Patreon is an example of
Patreon's
crowdfunding.
different, though.
It's not. It's an example of crowdfunding.
I would say it's different.
Subscribe
Because when you crowdfund, when you do Patreon, normally you get a reward. So I Patreon for a band, and one of the rewards I get is I get exclusive videos and easy access tickets.
Right.
I don't get a benefit for crowdfunding Sodom.
We do. He's here every day,
He's here every day.
You're white supremacists with nothing to say.
That's what I thought.
You know who he is?
With nothing to say.
That's what I thought.
You know who he is?
Believe all women. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Bad news.
You can see
Thank you very much for your time.
How am I a white supremacist? Because Well,
And the way you're asking us questions.
so I'm a white supremacist.
The way you're asking us questions.
So I'm a white supremacist. Supremacist because I'm white. Wow. Okay, I'd love you to justify that.
Over here, who put them up?
Hello.
Who put the poster up, the blue one?
Who's it by? It should be under.
Because this one here, 75 years of peace.
Yes, I'm 72 and I have lived 72 years of peace.
The last 5 years has been a civil war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
What about
Not
Kosovo?
in my life.
What about Kosovo?
And from the former Yugoslavia.
Former
that's why I
Yugoslavia.
wanna ask, yeah.
Part of trigger.
You know, the European Union, they encouraged Croatia and Slovenia to secede from,
They also
from Yugoslavia.
And then they did the same with Ukraine in the last 5 years. Where's the 75 years of peace?
So you see, they don't like it. They run off. You
I
see
know.
that? They run.
And because I'm white, I get called a white supremacist because they do.
Yeah, 70 million people are racist. It's distorted logic.
They don't even know me. I love how they came out with that one.
Film them, put them on YouTube, get them exposed.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to engage. I'm just engaging. I'm just engaging. You can look up my YouTube channel if you like.
Yeah, maybe
There's no whatever he's claiming on there. So someone unknown to you asks you questions, and then the man paid by George Soros.
He's not paid by
He is paid by George Soros. He's crowdfunded and paid by George Soros.
And until this evening, we still live in a democracy. I'd rather live in a democracy.
Okay. So I'm looking at the stand here. How are you feeling about Johnson?
I feel like feeling about Johnson, you should be very careful how you write it.
So you've got dual national, so you have a lot of...
Don't reveal our sources.
Yeah, very... Still chaotic though for you.
Stop the coup. What coup?
The mass media, the Parliamentary Labour Party, virtually all of them, the Liberals, the Guardian, the EU fanatics, triggered by a 5-day prorogation. They've gone to court, they've threatened to block bridges, occupy streets, even called for a general strike. As if a single worker in Britain would down tools for Diane Abbott and Paul Mason and the European Union.
I don't know, they've got t-shirts that say stop the coup. They're selling t-shirts that say stop the coup. Isn't it?
Proroguing Parliament, suspending Parliament.
Parliament gets suspended every time we go.
Not in a situation
It was
like
the longest
this.
Parliament that had ever been served. It's the longest Parliament that's ever been served.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're happy like that.
He's asking for a general election.
They call it a coup, but in fact, the coup is them. They say that the government has pulled a coup over Parliament, but it's Parliament that has been operating a coup against the will of the British people.
When he wants.
Great, your pictures, put them all over the site.
But what have I done? Just asking you questions.
I just want to know who you are.
Just asking questions.
That's how we find things out.
I know, that's how you dox people.
You know who I am, I don't know who you are. So tell us who you are.
You can look at my YouTube channel.
What's your YouTube
The Wandering
channel?
Englishman. There's no
YouTube channel, Welsh.
The Wandering Englishman.
Oh, right, okay. The Wandering Englishman.
Yeah. You'll see that it's perfectly fine. I'm just interested in engagement.
We're not we.
Okay. Because I reveal your sources.
That's all right then.
What coup though? Here's the thing. I try to engage with the Remoaniacs. I try to engage with the guy that's paid by George Soros. I'm threatened by them. I'm threatened. I'm doxxed. This is standard procedure by Remoaniacs. Don't engage with someone when they ask questions. Ask them what the coup's about. They walk away. When you point out to them 75 years of peace, they can't justify it. But they seem to forget Kosovo, they seem to forget the former Yugoslavia, they seem to forget that there's a civil war in Ukraine. They don't like having questions asked about themselves. Hi, that's all right, no. But we shall keep walking around and wondering what it's all about, and I'll try and engage with a few more people.
Right, and you can buy it in tests. Why would we be able to control the strains that kids do? I would like
useful information about Brexit, our situation, what's going on in the world, it's just gone wild right now.
You missed a good argument there with that big Scotsman down there with the glasses and the baldy head, man.
Well, I just
you missed it.
I just went down to the stall over there. I started filming, and then they claimed I was a white supremacist because I asked the question.
No, we can't discuss because you get hit with facts and we can't counter.
They didn't even know.
No, my heel will explode with facts. Oh, no.
They didn't.
It's amazing, isn't it? Intelligent people, you know what I mean? They go absolutely blank. Sorry, day, man. Otherwise, intelligent people absolute blank.
It's a shame. You can't get engagement.
One or two you can say, you can get a laugh.
But the ones that are being paid.
I know. There's a guy down there, and I was shouting, he's a pavement paper seller. No, he's picked up after two papers after pavement, and he's shouting, stop Brexit, you know what I mean? I was getting him tight.
I try and engage with him. I think
I'm like, you're a paid protester, £5, you're selling pavement papers to supplement your wages,
No, the guy, the guy in the top hat. He's paid by crowdfunding. He's also paid by George Soros, and he's pulled by Open Borders. He's also paid by Hope Not Hate. He's paid by a whole array of them.
Money in it, I know them.
But by me raising that with him, suddenly I'm the bad guy.
It's amazing conservatism is the counterculture, isn't it? Really, isn't it? You know what I mean? Shows
Absolutely.
how far we went left, and actual traditional conservatism is classed as extreme.
Yeah,
you leave with the show bit. Because see, once we get in, honestly, we believe there'll be independent public inquiries, and some people might hang. See, if you've got emails talking to the EU and saying, I'll do this to get behind the government, you're done. The emails there, they're all stupid at sending off texts. They'll be there forever. Isn't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Give you the resources, you'll find them, do you know what I mean?
No, exactly.
And again, to put in a general election with a 400-seat majority for Brexit, there'll be a public inquiry in there. You know what I mean? Hangings by pay-per-view. Well, be big man. You may be on it, know what I mean, for nonsense, but you need to explain. You need to explain, I know.
I mean, it's more just hardcore.
Well, it's not entirely true, is it? Isn't the EU above our law? The EU overrules our judges on almost a weekly basis.
If we decide our speed limit is
EU judges are constantly overruling us. When an EU judge, when one of our judges wants to deport someone, it gets overturned by an EU judge.
Yeah, because their basic basic rights that we want and need. Are you against European human rights?
I am against European human rights, yes.
Yeah, okay, well, we disagree.
Yeah, but
things like
EU judges overrule British judges on a regular basis.
They do.
Things like because Norway doesn't keep clean beaches.
The air in London is a disgrace.
And we're still in the EU.
And